and welcome to today's session. I'm very glad to be welcoming you to another season of CloudTalk Labs. So my name is Anna. If you've been here before, I'm a PMM here at CloudTalk, and I'm going to be walking you throughout this session. But I do need support from our internal team here, and this is why Diego is here. He's our senior customer success manager. Do you want to say hi?
Thanks, Anna. Yes, I've taken it on myself to really get comfortable with all the AI updates that we've been launching and figuring out what the best way it is to leverage them, like specifically for this session. Really looking forward to covering these topics with everybody and questions at the end.
And let's start with the reason why we are even talking about short and missed calls or the phone funnel in general. The reason I think will be very clear to majority of you, and that's because calls are still one of the highest intent channels. But with the higher the intent, the higher the stakes are, and calls are quite vulnerable channel. I know it myself because I have spent quite some time in customer support when I started around 10 years ago to work. And although the statistic can vary a little bit across industries, it's consistently very high. So around 85% of callers will not try to call you again if you miss their call. And if you're in B2C, they will very likely call a competitor because I don't know how about you, but when I'm researching new products or things that I want to buy, I'm definitely looking at more solutions or products like at the same time. Also, every missed call does equal to your missed revenue. And this number is specifically an annual loss for SMBs. Again, depending on your company size and industry, it will vary, but we are always starting the number somewhere around 120K. And for some industries, it can go as high as up to 300 or 400K of annual missed revenue just because of the missed calls. And just to combine it together with the cost also of short calls. So we are not only talking about the immediate revenue loss, but also we need to take into account the customer lifetime value and of course your customer experience, which especially today is very crucial if you want to acquire new clients and of course keep the ones that you already have. All right, now we're going to start to map your phone funnel, and we need to do this. So before we give you the fixes, of course, we need to provide the diagnostic or help you map the leaks. And specifically for the purpose of this webinar, we have divided the phone funnel into 4 stages. Again, based on your setup, if you have a very complex call setup, it could look a little bit different. But let's right now focus on the 4 stages, which will be entry, routing, waiting, and follow-up. Also because the main leakages that are identified in phone funnels are attributed to one of these stages. If we are talking about entry, so what you should be paying attention to is the rate of your abandoned calls that are happening within 10 to 30 seconds, especially if it's more than 10% of all of your abandoned calls. Because the 10 to 30 second window is talking about your IVR setup and the fact that people are getting confused by the IVR and they either don't know, they either need to reach a human faster or the navigation is too complex or it's taking too long. It's just connected to your IVR. This is an example of, I would say, a traditional IVR setup. It's a screenshot from our call flow designer, and you can see that there is an incoming call. So if there is incoming call, the client will first hear a playback message. So that could be like a greeting or some pre-recorded message that you want your clients to hear. And then they are connected to the IVR tree and they are choosing one of the options, like depending on their intent, of course. So some basic fixes, if you are seeing higher percentage of those abandoned calls, the reason why I'm saying basic fixes is because we are dividing, again, for the purpose of this webinar, we want to show you fixes that you can start implementing right now with your standard CloudTalk setup, but then also we will show you more advanced like AI voice agent fixes. Always make sure your IVR has to be simple and fast to navigate and include options to come back to the main menu or to speak to your agent. So these are one of the main causes why people are abandoning or just like leaving the IVR. Second thing would be to always make sure you have clear business hours set up. And even if there are vacations, holidays, or some special occasions, it's easy to also set that in CloudTalk, so like an exception rules, but always make sure to have that set up. And as a third thing, if the call is abandoned and missed, you need to have a tracking in place. So for every missed calls, there will be a callback, ideally with a priority and SLAs in place to be able to track. All right. what I would like to talk about right now is how the setup could look like with a voice agent step. So here you can see a similar call routing setup, but as the first step, you can see that there's a voice agent who is answering all the calls. It is able to answer frequently asked questions, simple queries, and like repetitive questions. And if the query or the question is too complex, it will route to a specific team. And here is where I would like to give the word to Diego for the first time, and he will tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anna. One of the main things that we've noticed as well when it comes to managing these missed calls is providing more of an advanced fix. So we can obviously implement AI voice agents to plug in those gaps that we see within our service, right? So obviously, you have a standard 9 to 5 or whatever sort of working hours you have, but you still want to provide either some support or some sort of guidance when your human agents are not there. Right. So a couple of these include something as simple as being able to greet and qualify the callers, take notes, and then put that into your CRM as an update for then a human agent to follow up on in the following morning. Routing urgent and complex calls to a human with accurate context. This is something that we typically see with AI receptionists who do a bit of the triage to make sure that they get all the right details and then pass it along as well. And then lastly, after hours coverage, which is one of the easiest ones to really deploy, where you can set up a voice agent with enough information so that if it does happen outside of regular hours, clients or customers, right, are still able to get the direct answer they're looking for without you needing to be present. So really, there's a ton of things that we can deploy with the AI voice agents here. And now we're going to be taking a look at a quick demo, courtesy of another team member. So Neo, he's one of the solutions consultants that we have here. He's able to provide some great guidance on this walkthrough.
Yes, and on the first video, you will just see how easy it is to implement the voice agent step into the call flow designer. And after that, we'll play a short video of the call with the voice agent itself.
Cool part about the AI receptionist. So rather than our basic call flow designer goes one simple step. We call into the number, it goes to the voice agent. But something you can do here is add in a condition splitter in case you want this to be more generalist reception. Maybe it should have one line for billing, one line for order inquiries, and one line for upsells. So we can add a splitter. And in here, we can have it route to maybe a more specialized voice agent or to a human for more important conversations. So maybe we want to have all sales calls get vetted by the AI receptionist and go into our sales team. And here we can add a condition where it'll look into the voice agent response. We can select a property. So in this case, we have a default one here, favorite pet. And if it contains a certain value, it goes there.
Yep, so basically this was just a demonstration of the voice agent step in the call flow designer. And now we would like to show you what it is like to talk.
Hello, this is CT, AI assistant for CloudTalk. How can I help today?
Hey, I wanted to check in on one of my orders.
Of course. Could you please provide your order number so I can look it up for you?
Yep, this would be order 853909.
Sure, let me check that for you. I can see that you placed your order last week on the 6th of November. Our standard delivery is within 5 working days, and your order has already been packed and handed over to the shipping company. The last update is that it should be delivered tomorrow morning. Do you have any further questions?
Yep, I was wondering if I can modify my order to add some pink strawberry bamboo socks into there.
I'm not able to change any details or add items to existing orders myself. Our customer support team can help you with that during office hours. Would you like me to arrange for someone to contact you about modifying your order?
I'll send an email inquiry to there, but that's great. Thank you.
Thank you for calling. If you need anything else, our team is available Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, with this, we wanted to demonstrate how the voice agent is able to provide, for example, in this case, it was a simple update on your order because it can, of course, take information from your CRM based on the existing customers, and it can provide, for example, updates. And if there's anything more complex, it's able to either route you to the human agent if it's within business hours, or in this example, it was outside of business hours, so it could schedule a callback for you. But anyway, your clients would get through, they would speak to the agent, and they would at least get partial information that they were looking for. All right, right now, let's move on to routing and waiting stages. Here, I will not go over all of these leakage symptoms, but the main point to take from here is that you need to be looking at more symptoms or more data points, and we will walk through them one by one, actually. On average, what we are seeing is that businesses still miss each fourth call, so 1 of 4 calls. Where we would like this number to be, or where we would like to point you to, is to get it to less than 10% of your calls. So less than 10% of your calls should be missed calls. Then if we take a look at abandoned calls metrics, we cannot generalize and talk just about abandoned calls, but these are actually our internal data that you're seeing here. And we were breaking down the abandoned calls depending on the amount of seconds when the abandon happens. So within 0 to 10 seconds, we are seeing that people are either hanging up at greetings, or they are spam calls or missed dials. 10 to 30 seconds is what we already talked about. So those are wrong destination or IVR confusion abandons. Then what we are seeing in 30 to 60 seconds is already people who are waiting, but their waiting tolerance ends and then they abandon the call. So they don't want to wait. And the real frustration is for people who are abandoning on 1+ minutes, because that means that they called you, they went through the IVR, and they were really waiting on hold for a long time without getting an option for a callback or any follow-up in the meantime. And then they abandoned the call after a long time of waiting. And the third symptom were short calls at this point. How we are dissecting short calls again, for the simplicity of this webinar, is they can be treated either as bad captures, so that's demand that you captured but not converted, or they are simple repetitive interactions. And this is important because where AI voice or automation can help the most is exactly at removing the simple repetitive routine interactions that are dragging down and taking a lot of time for your agents, and could be actually automated. When it comes to wrong destination, that's something that we already talked about. You need to be looking at your IVRs. And when it comes to weak, the first 30 seconds or no context. So what we mean by this is when the agent picks up and they don't know what the caller wants, like they don't have information about the client, even if the client is already existing and there is data in CRM. So basically the first 30 seconds of the intro are just weak and the client is frustrated by that. All right. I wanted to again show you some quick setups from CloudTalk. And that's because I would like to show you a less ideal setup, and then we will go to a really good setup. In this example, you see an incoming call that will get routed to a customer support once it's incoming. If customer support is not able to answer the call, there is still an option for a callback, and the customer can request a callback. So this is a setup where at least you would be able to follow up with all of your missed calls. But even a setup that will be able to reduce more of your missed calls and help you convert more of your clients and solve their issues would be, for example, this one, where you have an incoming call that goes to IVR, where the client is able to select. So this is specifically customer support, and they're able to select the language that they want to speak. And in CloudTalk, we have a functionality which is called skill-based routing. And then the call is assigned to a specific team where all members are tagged with this skill. And then again, if the group cannot answer, you can see that there is a routing to back again to customer support group. And that's like for the two cases. This visual was created for the purpose of this webinar, so it's not completely finished, but it does give you an idea of a better call setup. And just to summarize the fixes for routing and waiting stages, these are some examples that we would give you if you would be seeing many missed calls, short calls, and and high call transfers. So first of all, you need to check in your routing if you have skills-based routing. It's really helpful to add contextual IVR options, for example, for your existing customers, because then they could be, for example, getting routed to their favorite agent who already has the context or is their CSM. You need to be taking a look at the setup of your ring groups and whether the ring group that you are currently having is corresponding best to how your agents work. Always avoid dead ends. There has to be a fallback routing option. And again, just saying this again, you always have to provide a callback option if you have peaks or if that your clients can be waiting for more than a few seconds. And of course, for especially peak hours, we do have live queue management, where you can set up alerts when the waiting time for your calls hits, for example, 30 seconds, and you're able to live adjust the settings for your incoming calls. And here we will again take a look at a setup with a voice agent, but because of the lack of time, I will not walk through this, but I will again give my word to Diego. And just want to let you know that, again, we would suggest a voice agent as one of the advanced fixes, but not just that. There is also a preferred agent routing or VIP queues. So for your for your VIP clients. So these calls would always get to the front line of the call queue. And also it's important to have your setup so that agents who are answering the calls always see the history or context or just the context for the client. All right. And here, Diego, I'm going to hand it to you.
Awesome. Yeah. No, thank you so much. So we'd love to take some time to look at a real life use case of the successful deployment of a voice agent to handle this type of volume for support. So this is a client of ours that works in the administrative space, and it really starts with a very simple sort of situation. Human agents had a lot of incoming calls, a lot of questions that probably could have been easily addressed either by looking it up online or simply doing a quick check. So they noticed that we were not being super efficient with our time. That was what the customer would say to me. We're not being super efficient with our time. What can we do with regards to that? It takes very long to get to the nitty gritty of it. And really, we should be focusing ourselves in more complex situations. So we did. If you go on to the next slide. So what we did is we deployed an AI voice receptionist, right? One that is going to not only leverage an internal knowledge base to answer whether it's like a simple question or even maybe a medium technical question that it needed to address in order to free up the agents for those really more complex use cases, right? This was a great example of not trying to completely replace a human agent, but rather getting the most out of the human agent's ability to provide additional context, additional support for certain types of questions that were coming in. And as you can see, it isn't so much to really take away from the voice agent or anything like that, but it's to give back time to the human agents. We saw a tremendous win for the client themselves where a third of the volume ended up being removed. We are now focusing on great, more complex questions and providing top-class support as a result of that. So you saw some numbers in the previous slide. Those were great for the deflection rate. This is also one of the big wins for the client themselves when it comes to looking at the overall impact that the receptionist had on the team. I know we're short on time, so I won't take too much of a deep dive because we still want to get to questions, but this was a great example of how it can really help out the teams.
Yes, and I'm going to try to summarize the follow-up in 1 minute. The point is that majority of the content of this webinar was more heavily inbound focused, but here for follow-up, we also wanted to mention sales because we don't want to just ignore that. So when we are talking about leakages for the follow-up stage of your phone funnel, we mean that for sales, your leads will not get a callback. They will just go cold. And for support, it means that there will be no follow-up, which will lead to a worse customer experience. Again, here we have some industry guidelines, but let's not focus on them right now because I would like to jump already to some fixes. The point is for the follow-up is to always make sure that the most efficient way is to have automatic tagging of your calls in place, which will ensure that your follow-ups are trackable. And if you're assigning them to agents, they will not forget about them because they have the ownership and accountability. Then also in CloudTalk, what is happening is that the callbacks are getting assigned back to your queues. These calls will not be forgotten because they will be returned back to the call queues. What is important as well is to always leave notes and call outcomes for the context and for CRM integrations, which we are heavily working with. So if you're working within any CRM, you know that they will automatically create a task for a follow-up. Here, I just wanted to show you what the setting looks like for a callback. And for example, you can set an SLA here, which is like maximum time until the callback happens. For example, here it was like 24 hours and also the maximum attempts for callbacks. But also you could be setting up your SMS follow-ups, of course, depending on your processes, but this is also possible to set up. And then if we go for the last time to AI voice agents fix, the way that we wanted to talk about it here is that for AI voice receptionist, the way that it can follow up is in a way that it can capture the context when your team is not available and then flag for your team that this client needs a follow-up. And for a sales intent, the voice agent can capture it can capture the sales intent, it can pre-qualify the lead for you, and it can book calls directly in your calendar. And this is what we were seeing for one of our clients that Diego will again talk about.
Awesome. Right back to me. So this was a great win for our client as well, with the ultimate outcome being getting more bookings for trials. So Circle Gym provides a circuit-style gym service in Europe, and we're just going to walk through the different components of voice agents that actually allowed them to get to that 150% increase. So this is even more advanced than what we've previously discussed, right? It's actually different types of agents working with the same type of leads in order to better engage with customers. For everything from the pre-qualification agent all the way out to the success agent to follow up and check in why they didn't show up is a clear example of what we can do when we properly equip our voice agents with the right tools. So, whether they have to make an external API call or anything like that, and the right knowledge base as well to answer those questions from clients. So he really did have 4 individual use cases, working them all together in order to make sure that he built out a team of voice agents. And nowadays it is quite possible to do that with more specialized prompts and designs like that. So we can go on and to the next page here and right back to Anna to make sure we're right on time.
Yes. So as the last thing, we will provide you with a leak map and also a fixed list. I will definitely not go through it right now, but we try to summarize all of the steps of abandonment that can happen during your phone funnel, to which funnel stage is it attributed, what your data is showing, and how you should be fixing it. And with this, I would finish the presentation right now. I would go to questions. And again, you will receive this as an output to work with. Is there anything, Sunil, that you would add to what we just shared, or anything that jumps to your mind?
Truthfully, I hopped on about 5 minutes ago. I'm a little out of the loop on that side. Did we talk about AI voice agents when it comes to triaging emergency work for after hours plays? So a lot of companies do like to maintain a emergency line. This goes across industries. It could be like if your software infrastructure is down. It could be if like you're a property management company and a house is on fire, things like that. But of course, if you give people an emergency line, the definition of an emergency varies from person to person. So I know a lot of companies I work with will set up a sort of like a points grading system where they'll have different types of inquiries, and different inquiries are assigned a point, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Where if it's like a 4 out of 4, the apartment has a bomb threat, or the most important infrastructure has been down for 2 hours, that should get sent straight to a human, but everything else should create a ticket and can be addressed in the morning. That was a
Yeah.
fun use case, which I've seen a few times now.
Oh, interesting. We have not specifically talked about that. There is one question. I'm going to read it out loud because I'm not sure if you guys can see it. Will there be a note by CloudTalk if it's connected with our CRM that customer called outside business hours and asked for a callback or had a general question which was resolved by AI? Because if we speak with our customer, CloudTalk leaves a note to us how much time we spent on the phone.
Yeah, this is a pretty standard use case in order to avoid just creating a backlog of voicemails. So you can easily set up a voice agent to summarize what the inquiry was, right? So it can provide summary. It can also give you the context. It can answer back to the questions that came up. And then whatever additional data point you need to capture can also be set up with a prompt, right? So when it's connected to your CRM, that's where all the data will live, right? So it still is a call and it will show up within your CRM, but the data, you have a little bit more control over what it's collecting and how it's structuring that output. I don't know, Sunil, if you wanted to add on anything else there.
Nope, I think you're right on the point. Like you said, that data is pretty much transcribing the entire call and immediately picking out what's relevant to the points you're looking for. And inside of there, you can tell it exactly how it should handle each point. If you want to put a line up there that says, for call tags, use one of these 3 values, it'll abide by that, figure out which of these 3 is the most relevant according to the call that just happened.
Thank you guys for taking that one. All right, there is another one. If an existing CloudTalk number doesn't support SMS messages, would acquiring a new number be required, and how quickly can this be provisioned?
Yep, it would be required if it doesn't support SMS, and it depends on the region that you're looking to get the number from. Typically, there's like some legal requirements. I know certain places in the EU, for example, require you to have a business address that is the same as the country that you're trying to get a number from. So it really depends where you're trying to get the number from.
All right, let's wait for 1 more minute if there's anything. Okay, there is a follow-up question. Thank you, Benz, for also for asking. Benz is asking, I have one more question. How will be AI specified to answer questions that regarding our business? So if I understand correctly, you're asking about the knowledge base. The most important is outside the business hours to resolve quick queries. Is it collecting the data from CRM and replying according to that?
Yep, so for that one, there's pretty much two ways you can handle it. One is you can put it in the voice agent prompt itself, so put down a couple of questions, what the ideal answer should look like, and it'll run with it from there. You can also compile everything to a large PDF document or a Word document and put that into the knowledge base. And the benefit of doing that, as opposed to putting in the voice agent prompt, is it will pretty much create little chunks for each question and answer. And that way you can quickly retrieve an answer as opposed to scanning the entire prompt each time to figure out what it should say.
And also we'll be releasing updates when it comes to knowledge bases, when it comes to sources that you can use. So you will have even more variety and options how to plug in the information that you want the voice agent to have. All right. Feel free to send more questions if you'd like, Vincent. All right, Iago is asking, if I'm in a campaign, I can't take callbacks. How can I identify which campaign it belongs to? Like to which campaign name, and also call history with this contact. I know about cue cards, but these only show information from CRM, not campaign name.
Yep, so the call history it'll be there right away. It'll show up as an activity like any other regular call. When it comes to figuring out which campaign they belong to, I'll do some research to see if there's a better answer, but off the top of my head, all campaigns pull contacts via contact tags or CRM lists. So you can look into the contacts, the tags, and see where they belong to. That's why with my customers, when they're setting up campaigns, I typically recommend them to use a very specific tag name when they're setting up their campaigns.
Let us know, Iago, if this answered your question, and we can always also come back to you. All right, and Rita is asking, what apps would the emergency number work with in regards to tickets? I really don't know if I understand correctly this question. Guys, do you know, or I will ask Rita to be more, I don't know, give us more details.
At the emergency work with in regards to tickets, what apps would the emergency number? Maybe if you can give an example of what you're trying to ask, Rita, and then we can do a better job at answering. I guess we just need a little bit more, like an example or some more context.
Yep. So Rita says, we use property melt. Would it integrate with that app? Property melt.
We would have to. Oh, I see. So in terms of integrations for setting it up so that it could create a ticket, is my
Right.
understanding. I know we've done things with Soho Desk and Zendesk because we integrate with both of those, Sunil. So wouldn't we be able, if we have property melt, right, as an integration, we would be able to set it up so that the voice agent has either some sort of tool created where it can push out and create tickets if it takes a call and it assesses what the situation is to create a ticket.
Yeah, that one just comes down to Property Meld's API capabilities.
Correct. Yeah.
But in case their APIs, if we can plug it into their API, it will be possible.
Yeah, assuming API supports it, then we can plug it into there and have it create those emergency tickets.
Okay, thank you for specifying that. And then we have one last question. What if even once you have fixed the call flow, the missed calls still appearing for all the agents that are registered on CloudTalk?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Sunil. Yeah.
I think you might have better context than me here.
You try first, and then I can fill in where needed. I can plug your gaps. Go.
All right. So Yeah, so for missed calls, the way that they're going to show up is if either it's coming to a group that you're on or a number that you own. So this is going to be a matter of keeping a clean CloudTalk where if an agent's seeing calls that they should not be seeing, it means that they're part of a group that calls coming into that they shouldn't have been, or vice versa. They're in a phone number. They have a phone number assigned to them, which they should not have assigned to them.
Yeah, so I think one way to look at this very quickly is that the reason why you might see a missed call on a bunch of different agents when they belong to the same group is that within our analytics, we're able to actually drill down into the reasons why a call was missed, right? A reason, like one of the reasons why a call was missed is that people were unavailable, right? People were all busy. Another reason might be that no agents were online, right? In the call log, either way, it'll show up as a missed call. But if you go into the analytics and you go into the agent report or the group report, you will see this like duplication of the different missed calls because there was an attempt to route that call to that particular individual. And the reason why it wasn't connected can then be double checked, right? It can be because they were on another call, they didn't accept the call even though they were available, or they were on with another client. So the reason you're seeing that duplication is to provide that context. My recommendation is always to rely on the call log because the call log just looks at the call in one level. It just says, did the call connect to somebody? And that's it. Agent and group reports dive a little bit deeper.
All right, we have two last questions. Are you guys able to stay for those two?
Truthfully, I do have to hop off now, but
All right, but I think maybe we can handle this.
here, let me answer the second one first and then I can go.
Sure.
So this one is about setting it up so that new leads are contacted first in your campaigns. In my case, new leads are being scheduled to be called last. That's a little weird. So the way that campaigns work is pretty much it's on a first in, last out system. So that that plus a interval system. So the idea is that when you have all your leads, you add them in. As you make calls to them, the ones that have lesser calls made will be contacted ahead of those who have more calls. At the same time, if you add, say, 50 leads today and 50 leads tomorrow, you call down 50, you're going to call those 50 tomorrow leads. But then if you add another 50 a day after that, it's going to prioritize those ones over the ones that you added today. So this might be a case where you added a ton of leads at the same time on a continuing basis. And so a lot of the older first attempts aren't being pulled up to the docket. I might be off the mark with the question here, but that's generally how it works.
We can also follow up with you for this question, Claudio, if this is not answering or this is not going to solve what you're asking. All right. Thank you, Sunil, if you have to hop off. And then there is one last question. Have a good one. Bye-bye. That is one last question asking about, so the person would like to, sorry, I would like to ask like how to, so connected to the SMS activation, because they are using a toll-free number and they are planning to open SMS WhatsApp activation, and what's our pricing on that? And what can we recommend for SMS or WhatsApp? Diego, you can see the question, right?
Yeah, so this one
Yeah.
I think needs to be a little bit more specific. We have a numbers team that can give you better insights. I just know the approval process for WhatsApp is quite lengthy because it depends on what Meta's guidelines are. So we do integrate with WhatsApp. You are able to send and receive WhatsApp messages through the CloudTalk app. However, you need like a Meta business account. You need to authenticate and connect like a business profile to all of that in order to then be able to leverage it. Costs are also dependent on your actual like scope and ask. So that's something that I would recommend taking a look at either with one of our sales team members that can provide some additional clarity. For the question about what can you recommend, SMS or WhatsApp, SMS is obviously more straightforward of a use case depending on where you're located, whereas WhatsApp, there are some rules around when you can follow up or when you can't follow up, right? There's a lot of like hard like guidelines that you have to follow, whereas SMS, you do also have to follow some guidelines, but they're a bit more lax in with regards to the volume of the outbound messages that you're sending and just the overall comms. And again, these are all things that are best walked through on a separate call because they require different documentation, different processes. So if you'd like, maybe Anna, we can send over a link so that the individual can connect with somebody from the sales team and they can walk them through that, because it is dependent on your business profile and there's like more questions we would need to ask to help you get.
For sure. It's going to be very general. I can just paste the link for our demo form here. and we'll
And we
be
also have a
happy.
help center. We do also have a help center we can send over, and it does
Yeah.
provide quite a bit of guidance on all of that.
Okay, so let me just do that very quickly. Okay, I would prefer to follow up via email if you would be able to, because right now you posted a question as an anonymous, so I will not see it in the Zoom export. But if you would send in just a hi as a registered participant with your name and email address, then I would be able to follow up. But right now I'm sending only the demo form because I'm not able to find the article so quickly. All right, those are all the questions. Give me just 1 second. I'm gonna write a email address here in case you want to follow up with us with the questions, because I would not be able to send you an email. All right. You are always free to message us here at Product Marketing. That will be me and my colleague receiving your message, and then we can take that conversation with you. All right, that wraps up today's webinar. Thank you all for attending. Thank you, Diego, for being here, and Sanil for also already not being here. I hope you guys found this information helpful. Have a great day, and see you soon.
Thanks, Anna. Bye, everybody.